Our long-awaited Bitcoin ETF. It's supposed to come in October, and it's supposed to bring some face-melting gains. But is it everything that is hyped up to be? Well, I did a ton of research, and I discovered this timeline and these filings. And my conclusion is that there's a lot of nuance here that the Moon Boys are not telling you. So in this video, I'm gonna dig into all of it, aka why I think the ETF will actually come later, why it may not affect the price the way you think, and whether or not it will lead to the great decoupling between Bitcoin and altcoins. If any of that sounds interesting to you, then strap in my friend and let's roll the intro. Back in 2017 and 18, people were already talking about a Bitcoin ETF, how it's right around the corner and was gonna take us to the moon. But alas, that never came and we were let down over and over again. The SEC at that time was led by Jay Clayton, and he was always dismissive of a Bitcoin ETF. He kept on rejecting proposals because he thought the Bitcoin markets were filled with fraud, manipulation, and quote, didn't have real demand. But it's been several years since then, and our industry has matured immensely. We now have regulated futures markets, institutional grade custodians, and just high quality infrastructure that's allowed professional investors to come join the party. We also have a new SEC chairman, Gary Gensler, running the show, and he's actually spoken quite favorably about Bitcoin in the past. All of these reasons are why we think that this time it's really different when it comes to getting a Bitcoin ETF. But you know me, I don't like just to listen to the Moon Boys and get high on hopium. On this channel, we want to always do our independent research and analysis. So that's exactly what I did, and I want to share with you now. I'll get you caught up to speed on the latest ETF news. We'll talk about when it may come, the impact on price, and how this will affect altcoins as well. There's a lot to discuss, so let's just jump right into the latest news. First, you gotta know that these ETF companies never gave up. They kept on applying and applying, even though the SEC has only ever rejected their applications so far. In the first half of 2021, there were around 10 ETF apps submitted for review. But in August, Gary Gensler said he preferred futures-based ETFs for Bitcoin instead of the spot-based ones that were currently being considered. If you don't know what that means, don't worry, we'll touch on that more in a bit. But basically, after his comments, there was another wave of filings, this time for the futures-based products. Here is a great visual by Arcane Research of all the Bitcoin ETF filings and when they occurred. You see the ones on the left side of the timeline? They are all spot-based filings. And then Gary Gensler's statement is denoted by that light blue box in Q3. And to the right of that is a huge cluster of futures-based filings. By the way, did you notice the Canadian cluster on the bottom left of the graphic? Yep, Canada has not one but 4 Bitcoin ETFs fully approved since early this year. Even Hester Peirce, one of the 5 SEC commissioners who actually supports crypto, was flabbergasted. She could not believe that her hesitant colleagues let Canada beat us to an ETF. Boy, do I wish that she was the head of the SEC instead. But anyways, all of those early filings are still pending right now because that's how the SEC process works. It's not just a quick yes or no decision. They can provide comments and delay multiple times before having to make a final decision. And that's exactly what they've done so far. But then why do people keep saying that an ETF is right around the corner, most likely in October? Well, as far as I can tell, it was a strategist from Bloomberg who first predicted an October approval date. And everyone else just kind of ran with it. But the general reasoning is that the SEC is feeling the pressure because capital is flowing out of the US into countries like Canada that already offer these. Big firms like Fidelity and Van Eck are lobbying like crazy to get ETFs approved. And finally, Gary Gensler himself said that he was favorable to a certain type of Bitcoin ETFs. So I gotta admit, this Bloomberg guy has sound reasoning, but I still disagree with this October prediction though. Because keep in mind that these futures ETFs were just recently filed, and they're not even going to receive their first comments from the SEC until sometime late October to November. That's why I think the SEC will delay for a bit, because it's not like them to straight up approve so early in the process. And also, I don't think they want to give one firm an unfair advantage, so they'll likely wait until they can approve a batch of them together. That's why I don't think it'll happen in October, because the timing of those filings need to match up. But I do think it'll happen by the end of this year though, or at least Q1 of 2022. And when it comes, I think we'll likely see 2 to 4 get approved within the same month timeframe. All right, it is time to talk about the price, because I don't think these ETFs will make Bitcoin rocket like everyone else is saying. They are futures-based after all, which means that these funds would buy Bitcoin derivatives like futures contracts. They're not buying the underlying Bitcoin like spot-based ETFs would. Just think about it. For a spot ETF, if there's a ton of investor demand, they have to buy a freak ton of Bitcoin and hold it. That would be amazing for price because that's a new source of demand that didn't exist in the markets before. But alas, for futures ETFs, they don't have to hold the underlying Bitcoin, so the impact on price is not as straightforward. You can of course make the case that retail investors will be bullish and buy Bitcoin anyways when this ETF gets approved. But I fear that may be a buy the approval but sell the launch type of thing, because there is some time between approval and launch after all. And I think people will notice that there isn't this new wave of structural demand and may sell as a result. But let's suspend our skepticism right now and assume that Bitcoin will rocket because of this. In that case, will it lead to the Great Decoupling between Bitcoin and altcoins? This is where Bitcoin outperforms all other coins and Bitcoin dominance rockets to levels that we have not seen for years. It sounds unbelievable given recent trends, but it could happen. Let's say the SEC approves a Bitcoin ETF while also dropping the hammer on tokens, labeling them as securities. This could cause a wave of money to flow into Bitcoin, as well as a wave of money to flow out of altcoins. And that would lead to the mother of all pumps on the Bitcoin dominance charts, hence the term the Great Decoupling. Honestly, I think it's possible, but I only give this a 25% chance of happening. Don't get me wrong though, because I am not bearish at all about this ETF. I don't think it matters when it comes, in October or some other time. And I don't think it matters if we get a short-term pump or not. Regardless of all of that, such an approval would be freaking amazing for our industry long term. Just look at gold after all. The first gold ETF came out in 2003, followed by a United States one in 2004. And the price of gold absolutely rocketed afterwards, as you can see here. If this happens for Bitcoin too, it could be the super cycle that everyone has been talking about. By the way, if you have no idea what super cycle means, you definitely should watch this video explaining that very theory. Or check out this one for a fun counterpoint about why the SEC could ruin our party. Anyways, I'm Kevin from Coinsider. I can't wait to see you on the next one, and cheers!